Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Strife's Sanctum podcast. My name is Citizen Strife, and it's anime time again. And that means got a few shows to talk about nearing the end of the season. And I've actually ended one show because I watched in a bit of a hurry. But shows have either uploaded in order or they might be 2 episodes behind, stuff like that. But that's the usual process for these. But anyway, we'll start with Frieren season 2, and Frieren and Stark have gone in the Northern Plateau. They've done all that, done all their stuff, kept going, but now they're on a crazy journey to a town that was destroyed, and it was destroyed by an unknown assailant you considered a demon, and they looked at it and they tried to figure out what the demon was like, and I want to say it was called the Divine Revolt. I think that's what some of the episode descriptions called them, but they met some characters from the mage exam, and Methode is the best because she is very straight-laced, and yeah, when she wants to talk about elves, she gets a little giggle and gets to break the tension a little bit, which is great. They're also complaining about they're basically a hardtack bread or clunk bread and how they don't have any food. But you got to keep this show somewhat deadpan and somewhat funny. The other episode was them talking about chasing this supposedly amazing beer or spirit, and it was just a practical joke. It was a piece of shit. It was a piece of shit spirit from an elf, and they spent months unlocking it just to find out it's shit. So they had a good laugh about it. Let's see, To Your Eternity. This one has definitely gotten towards the end. I want to say there's only like 1 episode left, but they fought a meat man. The plan for Mizuha and the Knockers was to basically poison the water with knockers and just turn everybody into knockers, pretty much. And they even fashioned a meat man that looked like Fushi that was unkillable, basically a meat terminator. So they just he destroyed the school, and Tonari and other people had to save the school. So they did. Fushi almost lost all of his vessels in the fight against Mizuha, but Mizuha got thrown into a pit, unfortunately, and the original her died. The Knocker fought him in this weird, creepy yandere kind of way, and he managed to survive it. And the fighting is done for now. Because, God help me, this season was great, and it definitely rebounded from season 2. But I don't know where they're going to go with this. I mean, are they going to stay in this world, or are they going to do... I mean, because they could have Assassin's Creeded it and just been like, doop, 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 just piecemeal, just go into consistent different medieval times and stuff like that, and then it just went to modern day in the third season. So unless they go into the near future or the far future, I don't know where they're gonna go with this. But they've definitely regained my trust in the show with what they did this season. Yeah, there was some weird shit, like Mimori's weird brother dude who was I never want to see that again. But yes, this show is really freaking good, and I'm really happy. Still got an episode to kind of tie things together and finish up, but for all intents and purposes, the fighting is done. Let's see here. Trigun Stargaze is also finishing up, and they're getting towards the end of this. They're unveiling Knives' plan to not only like reappear, but funnel everyone into a central location and basically just wipe them out in one strike, or send a bunch of ships down and have them blow the city up, something like that. They haven't gotten to that far, but Wolfwood has had to fight off a lot of people, but managed to get Vash back to home, so that was a good touch. And it's funny because, again, this show has taken a much more grounded approach despite how wacky they could have gone with it. And seeing, not in every case, but in a lot of cases, a lot of the villains be sympathetic is nice, but also knowing that, like, Vash, as idealistic as he is, you know, he gets his own time to basically just tell Knives, you know, you're going to fail because humanity has some hope in it. And it works because Vash hasn't changed. In this version, that is what Vash is. At his core is, I don't kill anybody if I can help it. And I will always look on humanity's better judgment, even if I get, you know, hurt in the process. It's really amazing just how well they capture that old spirit of that show, specifically like the end, like the second season, because that's what they were kind of going for, was that more grounded and realistic vibe rather than the goofy one, and I think that was a smart choice. I mean, there's still some funny jokes to be had and whatnot. Millie is basically, like, exactly the same, you know, even with a different voice actor in Alexis Tipton versus Leah Sargent, she plays her basically the same, you know, and it's like, oh my god, she is basically the same. She doesn't get as much weird side stuff to do, and I'm wondering if they will. Like, Meryl and Millie don't get a lot to do, but, you know, I don't mind it, because this is a lot about Vash and Wolfwood, but it's also like, I would like to see more stuff with them as, like, separate characters rather than just the two of them together, even though they are friends. It would be nice to learn more about Millie on her own, because Meryl had an entire season to herself, you know. But I don't know if they're going to need to do that. And they still have so many other things they can do because they're not retreading the same stuff. So it is nice. Hell's Paradise Season 2 has gone through everybody's doing separate fights. Much like Gachi Akuti, everybody's doing separate fights. So we go on to different fights. But if you like that, that's what you want. You want different people doing different kinds of fights and different kinds of things and fighting different types of dudes who do different types of things. Because they're fighting the Tencent and they figured out how they're going to fight the Tencent, and all of them are different. To me, I'm happy that this sort of stuff happens, but I'm also, like, begrudgingly, like, I want more story rather than just fights. So, who knows? But again, this is the kind of show that they're in, I suppose. You have all these monsters that you're having, and instead of fighting them all at once, you have these separate fights where you're doing, this person focuses on this thing, and then that one does that thing, and then here's the big explosion, and here's the big, you know, here's the big second form and whatnot, you know. So it does have the same thing that Gachi Akuta did, where it's just like, yeah, we're fighting a bunch of dudes in different spots, and let's go. So it's basically following Gachi Akuta season, or second core, kind of, in its own unique, weird way, philosophical way, so it's fine. Speaking of shonen, we've got Sentenced to be a Hero. They're in a new city, and they're fighting a bunch of adventurer dudes and doing cool adventuring stuff, but fighting this, like, crazy, like, half fairy, half human hybrid thing as well, who, you know, is joining the guild and trying to basically destroy things, and you get these machinations and you get all the stuff. But much like Hell's Paradise, you're just kind of like, well, at this point of this show, we're just going to do the fighting stuff. So let's do the fighting stuff. And if nothing else, this show has been reveling in all the fight scenes and just send Tachi over there to kill stuff. Have His Majesty talk a bunch of random nonsense, because he's a majesty, and having Xylo just be like begrudgingly, he just, angsty loner stuff, but whatever machinations that they lay in the behind the scenes, they've got this character known as a Spriggan or Spriggan or however they want to pronounce it, because it's Spriggan, but done in a unique way. And I think it's like the final fight they're going to have in this episode, or they're going to keep it going for another half season. I don't know. I'm not sure how far ahead Sentenced to Be a Hero has done, but this main show has been about, let's set up the fight scene, let's do the fight scene, and let's have Xylo basically bitch people out while he does it. And then have Taya Reid ask for headbands, because that's what the season is, and it's fine. This show, Shiboyugi, is weird, because when I first saw it, I loved it, and then it kind of fell in a hole. Not in a bad one, and of course I have a motorcycle coming by, so boy, that's fun. Anyway, Shiboyugi was like my early front runner and has slowly just kind of filtered into, it's pretty fucking good still, and it's going to stay that way, but it does have its moments of, man, you could go faster, just go faster, just do stuff. It's trying deliberately to do things, and I don't know if, like, I know they're trying to set up certain characters as, this is Yuki's tormentor for this set of episodes, and then we have this person, and they're doing their evil monologue shtick, but they take like 4 to 5 minutes to do it, rather than, oh hey, we're doing the fight now, let's have a bunch of fucking fights. It's very deliberate. This show is very deliberate, and what frustrates me is that it does take its time in places where it shouldn't, because it's almost like watching a Family Guy gag that runs on too long because they're just stretching for time. This feels like that. Like they have only so many ideas to fill 22 minutes, but they've only got 20. So they're spending a lot of time doing dead air. It was effective in the first episode, but I will admit that it is bugging me that every episode there's at least 2 instances of they're talking to dudes, or they're talking to other girls, and then you're kind of waiting for a response, and then waiting for more, and then waiting again, and then they speak, and it just feels weird. Or they're doing the flash forward or flashback, and they're doing, okay, this is all whimsical and weird, like an Eva show or something, because Eva was so fucking spectacular at its whole visual metaphors and shit. It really wasn't, by the way. That was them losing their budget. So, pretentious much. And again, I don't think this completely destroys Shiboyugi, but I will say that it's not my favorite anymore. It's still gonna be up there because it's pretty fucking good, but, it's not as whimsical and straightforward as Sentenced to Be a Hero, and the love stories of You and I Are Polar Opposites and In the Clear Moonlit Dusk are just plain fucking awesome. Speaking of polar opposites, holy shit, it's Tani's birthday, and my god, Suzuki is just so much fun. I didn't have Polar Opposites for a week, and I missed it. And I really fucking missed it, because as soon as Suzuki got talking and started owning the fucking scenery with the way she owns scenery, I was just, yes. So they go on a date, and they do a cool thing, and they have a date, and Tani picks the date, and it's kind of boring, but Suzuki's like, it's fine, I'm spending time with you, it's great. Because again, my favorite part of Suzuki is those moments where she shuts up and slows down and shows enduring emotional depth. Because if she was just off the wall gremlin all the fucking time, yeah, it'd be fun, but it would drive me mad. and you're tying in other relationships and stuff, and it's kind of neat, but it's fun, getting these characters closer and closer together, and it's fun. And on the other side of it, you have two other love stories. I'll get to Kaya-chan Isn't Scary in a minute, because that's technically in the order. But since I'm talking about love stories, I finished Love Through a Prism. Lily managed to get first place. Now, I just bulldozed like 8 episodes, give or take, in the last 2 weeks to finish it. And Lily earned first place because Kit got sick. So she stayed in England, and it was fun and all, and then Kit realized that his diplomatic responsibilities, his father passed away, and he just stopped trying to be an artist. And another freaking motorcycle came by. Fucking lovely. So Kit gave up his art and went on the path of the world and did his own thing. So the final couple of episodes were done in this interesting style of like muted and monochrome, where they took the color away, and Lily and Shin were about to get married because they kind of fell into it. And I honestly kind of felt like the show was going to go there, but they didn't. And they went the obvious route at the end with Kit and Lily at the end, because Kit didn't die somehow. His explanation for it was strange. Oh, I got bit by a snake. Oh, I fell in a boat. Oh, I did this. Whatever, I'm still alive. Shit like that. They just kind of hand wave it as, oh, I was gone for 5 years. Fucking life. Am I right? Doesn't matter. It's almost like it never happened. I kind of wanted the Lily Shin romance to be the ending, but I kind of knew that the more they pressed on it with them being in the monochrome and stuff, they just didn't. It reminded me a lot of like Sing Yesterday for me, where the emotional weight of this person that you don't know, who is like an antagonistic force but is like clingy as shit, but is like very friendly too, and you get along with them super well, but you still think that this like amazing person that you met before is everything you wanted it to be. And then when you're in that relationship, you realize it's not all it's cracked up to be, in a different way. Obviously, the mechanisms are, well, they didn't really have a choice, versus you chose this path and you realized it wasn't for you. But at the same time, Love Through a Prism is like, just because Shin and Lily were going to get married, they realized it wasn't going to work, because that their dreams and their motivations, they wanted to follow their dreams, and they were young enough to do it, so they ended up doing it. Shin goes to Italy, Lily goes back to England, and she falls for Kit, and they go off on an adventure to do their crazy shit. Which is fine. I thought Love Through a Prism was fine. It wasn't, I enjoyed each episode as I was going through it, but I was never like so invested that I'm just like on the edge of my seat, because I kind of figured that like Kit and Lily would find each other anyway. Like, there was never any doubt in my mind. So, there is a certain inevitability to it. Like, their chemistry's fine, but the fake out near the end ended up kind of annoying me, because they went through the fake out angle, because I was like, I kind of want them to do the fake out now. I kind of want them to just accept that, because they had an example. They were like, well, Kit's going back to England. He's just gonna not live with them anymore. And it's like, okay, well, if he's gone, then they don't really have a choice. And it's like, okay, then they'll just live out their life. I was kind of hoping that they would choose that, because you almost never choose that. In love stories, you almost always go for the emotional climax moment of, I fall in love with this guy. It's the most amazing feeling in the world, versus like just having security, securing, even if it's boring, securing your life as is. Again, that maybe not be the happiest ending, but I think for a show that was kind of leaning towards the more melancholic ending, I was kind of hoping they would have just went there, because that would have changed the dynamic a bit, because the show was kind of leaning up towards no, Lily and Kid are just gonna get together and that's it. I'm like, well, no, I would have kind of preferred, because he's a bit of a romantic. He just does his own fucking thing. But whatever. The show wanted to do the what you see is what you get ending, which is fine. In the clear moonlit dusk, we'll finish up with love stories here. Kohaku and Yoi are finally a couple, and they have their fun, and they go on a festival, and they're gonna go on a trip, and it's cool and all. And then they're gonna have the second guy try and fall for Yoi, even though he knows, and he even admits, why am I doing this? Because they're a couple. You still have 4 or 5 episodes to go. What's he really going to accomplish? The emotional conduit of the show is they're a couple. They're going to fall for each other. They just go through those machinations. You don't need to have this third wheel. It's different with Love Through a Prism because they makeshifted this Kit may be dead sort of scenario. Well, if he's gone, then alright, well, you don't have much of a choice in the matter. When you make it so obvious that these two are going to be together, and then they're already together 3 or 4 episodes in, it really seems manufactured to put in a love triangle option now, out of nowhere. What is this guy going to accomplish? What is this coworker going to accomplish trying to fall for Yoi out of nowhere with 4 episodes to go? It could be interesting. I like these characters enough. It just feels like I don't really know why you're doing it. Go back. I'm kind of talking these out of order now. Kaya-chan isn't scary. I talked about how it was Mieruko-chan, but better. And it is. Because they're actually exploring and explaining all the mechanisms of Kaya's family and what she is. And, who is Uncle Mobe's friend who's also part of the Ebisumori. Ebisumori. I can speak and enunciate. The Ebisumori clan. 2 different people of the different parts of the branch families are working through this Ebisumori thing. And you'll find out what Kaya is. And she almost basically just gets destroyed until Chie comes in and saves her. And you start learning more and more and more about all this weird, creepy shit that has all these very dangerous implications. And you're like, yes, this is the stuff that Mieruko-chan didn't do because they were stupid for 3 or 4 episodes. And then they finally, added to the characters, but then they didn't do shit with it. This show's actually doing shit with its premise, and I love it. Let's see here. And the Adventurer's Daily Grind at age 29. A tale of 2 different episodes, because I was kind of hoping that the show would get some balls after what I saw. They were going to fight this crazy monster, and you find out that Hajime is really fucking awesome, and he beats the shit out of the thing. But then this fucking sandworm comes by and eats his freaking arm. Legit, just comes up from the ground, eats his arm, and they show it. This goofy-ass show that has done nothing to suggest that it's gory or badass or shonen in any way. They spend the last couple of minutes of the last episode basically saying, this guy lost a freaking arm. And it was cool. And he deals with kind of the emotional scarring of that. But then he realizes that he's not the one who scarred. Riri is. But then he gets a different arm altogether, and they play it off for laughs, and it's kind of weird because it's funny because this show is a joke, but it's man, they suddenly kicked a shit ton of ass there, and then just kind of balked at it because they remembered what kind of show it was, and they're like, okay, we were gory for I'm kind of shocked they even went there. But if nothing else, at least I'll remember that this dumb junk food show had a moment of absolute badassness, even if it kind of reneged on it later on. So it means it shows its teeth when it needs to. I was pretty impressed. But anyway, that'll do for this week's rundown for another couple of weeks. Love Through Prism is done, so we'll finish up other shows as we go. I did Final Fantasy VI, so next week is Amiku MD, Doctor Detective. There'll be East Origin, Be the Beginning, Mega Man 5, and X5. And then once we get a chance, Lee and I are going to do Apothecary Diaries anime review at some point. But that'll do for me, and I will see you next time. Citizen Strife, signing off.